I stand here today to remember and honor the sacrifices made by more than 120,000 Japanese Americans whose internment began on this very date. We look back at the forced incarcerations and are astounded by how fear could dictate the way American citizens were treated by their government. Executive Order 9066 required the relocation of all Japanese Americans from the entire West Coast, including Washington, California, Arizona, and parts of Oregon, for the sole purpose of our national security. Community leaders arrested, 5,000 of them. Entire families uprooted from their homes and sent away, some as far as Arkansas, for no other reason than their ancestry and fear. For a significant number of Japanese Americans, they were no longer welcome in their own country. Home was no longer home. Fast forward 32 years to 1972, I grew up in Puyallup, and my younger brother's best friend in junior high and high school was Robbie Takamura, a Japanese-American boy in our city. My brother and Robbie were born 16 days apart, close enough that they considered themselves twins. They had a lot of energy and were constantly together. They rode their bikes all over the valley, but if they had to go to South Hill or Edgewood, they treated me like their personal driver. They were fun, smart, ran as a slate for junior high ASB, and were also a bit mischievous. They proved to be highly skilled at toilet papering houses. I adored Robbie as a third brother. After high school, they went off to college, and today they have happy, healthy families. It's a little bit surreal to compare my family's experience with the way Robbie's family was treated growing up. His parents and their siblings were all good students and athletes too, and had bright futures ahead of them, yet they were subjected to the stigma of war. His Aunt Rosie was a high school senior when she was uprooted from her home and driven across town to Camp Harmony, the temporary internment camp at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, until 1946. She was only allowed to bring what she could carry on her back. After class each day, her friends would walk the 6 blocks to visit her in her new home, situated behind barbed wires in a maximum security camp guarded by federal authorities. How frustrating it must have been to see your best friends in this condition, and how humiliated she and others must have felt to be interned. On Rosie's graduation day, Superintendent Paul Hannawalt requested a brief leave from the camp for several Japanese Americans students. He took them to the Puyallup High School to walk with their class and receive their diplomas. Soon after, Aunt Rosie was relocated to Camp Minidoka in Idaho. In recent years, Japanese American high school students from Auburn High School, who weren't given the same privilege as American students to graduate because of the internment, finally received their school diplomas. Decades later, it was something that I know means so much to them. I can only imagine how bittersweet their moment of commencement must have been. To think back on how difficult this time was for Japanese Americans, how much they endured, and how many people were affected, I can only describe it as a dark moment in history. Fortunately, our country has come a long way since then. After the worst terrorist attack in our nation's history on September 11, 2001, we did not turn on each other. Americans were more united than ever. Fear did not win the day. I believe learning the mistake of the past is a sign of progress. I am so proud that America continues to make progress on multiple fronts. Our past is as important as our future. We must never forget to learn from our mistakes and remember them. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I recommend House Resolution 4660 for passage on this day of remembrance.